All right, good morning, everyone. So before we get the episode started, as usual, we're just gonna play the intro video, and then I'll bring Small Cap and Soul up on stage, and we'll hit the ground running on all things Arbitrum. So let's play the thing.
GM Anon, welcome to today's episode of Market Capping. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind you that I'm not your mom, and nor are any of the speakers on this show. Nothing you hear today is financial advice. You should be a big kid now. Make your own decisions, do your own research, and assume every crypto coin you buy will result in complete losses. If you ever plan on holding anyone other than yourself responsible for your choices, please navigate to the top of your browser window where you'll find the friendly red close button. And now, let the episode begin.
Boom. All right, let's bring the guys on stage. Small Cap and Soul, you guys here? Should do a little quick mic test.
Yo, yo.
Yeah, I got you.
How's it going?
All
Good
right,
morning.
I think we got everyone. Boom. I guess before we get started, I personally thought the episode was at 5 p.m. PST, but it was 5 p.m. EST. So I was literally like at a restaurant when Small Cap called, and he was like, "Oh, you ready to start?" And I just like raced home. So I haven't even read the notes. So we're really going to be leaning on Small Cap and Soul to push us forward. But these guys are mega pros at Arbitrum Ecosystem. So excited to get started. Small Cap, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, DCF's going to be eating his leftovers as we sit here and talk. So if he's silent, you need to just shove in his face.
Literally.
You'll see it on the
right on the VTuber, right? Messy face emote
exactly.
activated. That's why we're in a restaurant.
Exactly. Good stuff. But yeah, we can carry the load on this one. Super excited for it. Having Ethersole from PlutusDAO. I've followed him for a very long time on crypto Twitter. Always has like amazing content. Put together Plutus shortly after like the Jones DAO launch. Recently launched his own podcast. So super excited to have you, and thanks for coming on.
Dude, absolutely stoked to be here, man. It's been a long time coming, I feel like. I know when you guys mentioned the podcast and everything, I was stoked to tune in, but glad I could finally make an appearance.
Yeah. Give a quick shout out to the TrendingDown pod that you actually launched. I think it's about just as old as MarketCapping is. So I mean, it's you and OX Bender, I believe. But I've heard nothing but good things. I got to listen into like half an episode, and I mean, you guys crushed it. But it's been growing extremely quickly, and it looks like you guys have had some pretty awesome guests. So any big plans for TrendingDown going forward?
It's honestly just two degens degenning out about degen things, you know what I mean? So more of the same. Probably bring on some more DeFi guests. We've been pretty NFT heavy lately. But yeah, just kind of like putting the content out there. We keep it a little like high level. Maybe for some of the DeFi like gods in here, they might not get the most value out of it, but we just keep it light, add like a hint of comedy to what's going on in the markets, and yeah, we drop it once a week, so feel free to check it out.
Yeah, you need a hint of comedy to get through some of these markets, though. It's been a bit rough lately.
It's a little grim.
Yeah. I was out all weekend and like came in literally today and like opened up my port and I'm like, oh yikes! Like definitely should have paid a little bit more attention to the weekend. So
yeah, this is delete Zapper, delete Blockfolio, all that type of season.
Yeah, exactly. But. So let's dive into Plutus, Arbitrum. It's a really big week, honestly. I know you're one of the biggest bulls on like the Arbitrum ecosystem. I see it all the time. You say your good mornings, and it's to all the Arbitrum people. Like I guess, pretty much.
You gotta shout them out, man.
Yeah.
So many Arbitrum maxis out there. Love it.
So what's the reason behind it? So like, why are you so bullish on Arbitrum as opposed to maybe optimism or like building on L1s or really any of the other chains that are out there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when it comes to layer 2, there's so many options. And I think I first started hearing about Arbitrum. I was a Link Marine back in the day, shout out, kind of early on. And then they work heavy with the off-chain labs guys. And so, I heard about it from them. I knew they were gonna so I was like, okay, that's guaranteed, a little vouch right there. And then got into DopeX heavy. When I heard they were converting over to Arbitrum, I was like, all right, even more of a confirmation that I should probably be there. And then I don't know if you guys remember when Arbitrum launched, but like the Nyan, the cat farm that brought in a ton of TVL.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Dude, the absolute beginning days of Arbitrum, ton of fun there. But no, I think I've always been bullish Arbitrum, mainly because I'm bullish layer 2. But exactly, it's like which one do you pick? And I think being able to see optimism play out over the last, whenever they launched a token, I think 2-3 months ago, but seeing that play out and all the yields get juiced and everything they did, and now Arbitrum having this retrospective look at it and being able to launch and kind of fine tune their mechanics, it makes me even more bullish. So, basically just trying to ride the wave. We all love a good airdrop. And, with this new Nitro release, I think tomorrow maybe, it's supposed to make things even cheaper and faster.
So 2 days out. 2 days
so
out.
How could you not love that,
Yeah, cheaper. I think that's the main piece of Nitro. It's just cheaper transactions, but they've been teasing it for so long. Like looking forward to it. I don't think they've confirmed an airdrop yet, but there's a lot of good content out there that it feels like it is almost for sure coming. But also, I feel like it has to happen at this point almost. But I feel like they were waiting for some of these big upgrades, so it could be announced really like any week. It's kind of the way I look at it.
100%.
Yeah. I think with that, like there's also a lot of projects building there. When you look at like you mentioned DopeX, like I know Jones, Sperax, like Vesta, feels like a lot of the innovative stuff that was happening on ETH L1s has kind of shifted. Like you don't see too many projects really launching on just like mainnet anymore. So I mean, I feel like a lot of the new, I want to say tech and things that are actually being built from scratch are coming on L2s. So I mean, I think that's kind of the spot to be for the time being.
Right. I mean, if I see a project these days launching and they don't at least have a layer 2 plan, I don't know. It's kind of something I'll pass on.
Yeah, it's fair. What are kind of your thoughts, I guess, about like competing with ZKs in the future? I know like Arbitrum's technically optimistic roll up. Like, how do you see that kind of playing out when some of those finally start to launch?
I think long term, I believe in like maybe a multi-chain world, but definitely an interconnected like layer 2 world. So I'm not too concerned about it. But I'm excited for all the new tech that's coming out. Obviously, the privacy aspect is very interesting. So, I always keep my ear to the ground with the new tech. I think it's a miss if you don't. That's why we're all on, if you're on Arbitrum, that's probably why you are, right? Because you're trying to look for the new hotness.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is there anything that you actually did to kind of take advantage of the airdrop? I know there was like a guild like XYZ checklist for the Arbitrum airdrop.
That's what I'm wondering. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even farmed this Arbitrum airdrop. I think DCF intern did a little bit for us, but like, if let's say you're coming to this late and I want to maximize this airdrop, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. So, again, nothing official yet, but to set yourself up the best, always start with the native bridge. There's tons of bridges, Synapse the go-to, obviously for most people, but I would use the native bridge at least once with a good amount of volume. It doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands, but something over like what a Sybil farmer would probably do.
Right.
So that's the first place to start. Second place is use the dApps.
Okay.
Obviously on-chain usage is the best way to go there. Or maybe punt some leverage longs on GMX or some options on DopeX, whatever it is. Maybe buy an NFT. Just like all the you look at the optimism drop and you kind of can get a feel for maybe what they're going to go for, but then they also have the Odyssey, the Arbitrum Odyssey, which they put on pause until they release Nitro.
Yeah.
And so I would say probably a good idea to it's tough to say this, but probably a good idea to compete in that, or at least like
there's this like guild XYZ site. Is this the Odyssey?
This was like one of the checklists that they put out. Like I just sent over of like they put it out as like, hey, these are probably some things that you should do if you want to be looked at for the RB airdrop.
And this is official from the Arbitrum team.
I don't think so, but I think like how are you going to be this specific and put this out if there isn't like at least something behind it?
Okay, nice.
So that's kind of why I've looked at it. I haven't done a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that's such a good call on the native bridge. I literally just got screwed on that using Synops for like bridging to
Optimism.
Doge chain.
I mean,
like
Right.
I did it for a bunch of wallets and it's like, all right, I'm gonna get this sick airdrop, and then I looked and I'm like, oh, I got nothing. That is so brutal. So that's a great call.
On Optimism, like there was this secondary play where you could just buy the projects that got massive airdrops instead of needing to farm it yourself. I feel like that was the better late stage play where it was like you already knew all the Sibblers did all the stuff, and it was like really unless you spend tons of hours, it wouldn't work out. But if you could have gone and bought like Velodrome or any of these other projects that were getting massive Opti airdrops and they kind of just gave them to their users. Is there anything like that on Arbitrum, or we don't know yet, or we don't have the numbers yet? And if we did have the numbers, how do you think it would work out?
Yeah, so I think they're going to do something similar to like the grant program. So it's not a bad idea to like, kind of participate in upcoming projects or, stack some small caps. But because I think the yields are going to get juiced if they do go that route. And I don't see them not going that route because, it's not a gas token, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's a governance token. So how do you distribute that? Obviously, the best way is probably to
give it to your builders, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll probably wait until after the merge. That would just be my guess. Like I feel like that kind of introduces some complexity to like L2s, and like I just feel like that's probably a good time to do it. Like as soon as the merge kind of happens, to like launch an airdrop, push a lot of like people to an L2. There's a lot of eyes on ETH at the time. I feel like that probably feels right, but that's just a guess. Speculation
I agree.
on my part.
Hilarious. Do you think it'll be TVL based, or do you think it'll just be like distroed equally? If it was TVL based, like what is like the highest TVL versus lowest TVL kind of thing on Arbitrum? I guess I would be looking at TVL to market cap ratios, right? Like find projects that have a
100%.
ton of TVL and a low market cap, and then maybe they'll get a bunch of RB tokens, and then that's the best like disparity.
Exactly. I would say that's a great place to start. And then on the individual side, a lot of the OGs on Arbitrum are like praying that it's not all this Odyssey thing, because the Guild XYZ link that you guys sent is like, that's similar to what they do for the Odyssey. It's like, hey, complete this challenge, and it's a 16-week challenge. And so, most are speculating the token comes out after that. So Odyssey starts back up.
Makes sense.
Once Nitro's released. So 16 weeks from then, right, is when you could maybe expect the token. But yeah, I would say competing that, but a lot of the OGs are kind of like, please let it be, a little bit of like on-chain past historical usage as well.
Right.
That puts you right at like December. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something to keep in mind, I guess. I need to use I need to go bridge from the native bridge now. I spent so much time on Arbitrum and haven't done that yet, but
yeah.
Hopefully that preps us for the airdrop. But
if you're gonna do anything, I would say do that.
Yeah, I will. That's a good call. Let's dive into Plutus a bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, App has been absolutely crushing it. Honestly, you've been created one of my favorite bags. I think like I lucked out and like accumulated on some of the downtrends and like almost bottom ticked it with like, I think it was like 7 cents at a certain point when like the market was down only, and you guys were still just building silently. So it's been a very good bounce. I think you guys went as high as like $1. So like congrats on, I guess, like getting the exposure and blowing up lately. So
hey man, appreciate it. It's always one of those things, like you launch a token in the bear market. It's a blessing and a curse. Kind of focus on building first, and I'm all for that. And that's kind of like the vision we came in with anyway. So it was what it was. But no, it's been a good ride.
Like you guys have been one of the harder projects to keep up with in like a good way. Like every time I go check like announcements and like the Twitter and things like that, there's just always something new, a new medium, like new announcement that's come out. So like, I mean, that's always impressive, especially in a bad market. So, I mean, you guys have been crushing it. But
shout out to the team.
Oh, honestly, yeah, agreed. Do you want to give a quick tidbit on I guess like your goals? I guess for now, long term, like what exactly you guys are working on?
Yeah, of course. So kind of started as a convex type aggregator for DopeX governance, Ecosystem governance to be exact. So we started with DopeX and Jones. I was always a big fan of Curve, Convex, and so kind of was like, all right, what happens if you front run someone's governance, right? So we knew VE DPX was coming out, so let's front run it, try and gather as much of the kind of voting power as we can, and go from there. So it's been pretty successful. We have like 13% of the circulating supply of DopeX right now, which translates roughly to like 55% of the governance power.
Oh, so you control DopeX like hard stop. Whatever you want, they have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
so
insane.
because think about it. Most people don't want to lock up these tokens for 4 years. I mean, we've all come to realize that. And so, we basically launched these to front run things. And so anyway, started as basically a DopeX governance aggregator, and then kind of realized it was like, okay, well, we're not going to just sit here and twiddle our thumbs until they release their governance. Like what would happen if Convex went after? Right. So what would happen if Convex went after more than just Curve? And so we started going after some other protocols, and now it's kind of evolved into this like layer 2 black hole for governance with multiple sort of projects that we've partnered up with, quote unquote, and are looking to front run a little bit their governance because there's not a ton of governance activity on Arbitrum yet.
Yeah. What about GMX? Like, is there a VE GMX or something like that, or you don't need that?
So there's ESGMX, which is basically like vested for a year before you can sell it. So and that is their governance token. So that's something that we are definitely looking to accumulate. Obviously GMX is probably the all-star project on Arbitrum right now. They're killing it. Great PMF, just absolutely flowing with fees. So yeah, we're looking to dabble there. We recently launched a PLV GLP vault. So GLP is like their liquidity pool. As a way to get more ESGMX in our hands.
I see. Damn. Okay. So these are like your core metrics here. It's like how much DopeX you control, how much Jones you control, and now you added Sperax. So how much Sperax you control, and then potentially VE DopeX. So then, as like a buyer or a new person to your project, how am I supposed to value this? Like with Convex, I can't really say like, oh, it should be worth all of the Curve because the people who own the Curve are the people who keep the tokens, but I can say it's worth the value of the governance, which is the value of the bribes of the underlying Curve, right? So is that similar here where I'm like supposed to figure out how much is the governance worth, and then that's probably how to value you guys, because you'll keep 100%. That governance forever. Like there's no way to give that governance back.
Yeah, exactly. Another way to frame it is like we kind of view ourselves as a governance marketplace for people who only care about, max ROI. Like, for all intents and purposes, there's some people who don't give a shit about governance, and it is what it is. And so they can sell those governance rights, get max ROI, stay liquid, and then the PLS token holders who do care can hold the token for that governance rights. But you're exactly spot on. It's like, it's all speculation right now around how much the governance is worth, but
so there's no bribes or anything like that already. Like there's no way for me to know. Yet. It's like when these projects grow, they'll likely have value in the governance for emissions, so then they'll get bribes, so then we'll see the value of holding a Plutus token.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you guys did really well compared to, I want to say Convex is you. Like your tokenomics, you didn't kind of blow your whole bag right out of the gate. Like you guys still have a ton of emissions to have over time. I know like a lot of people's gripe, I want to say, with a lot of the new aggregators like Aura, you guys, like it is kind of that FDV. When you look at it, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's decently large, but you still have a ton of emissions that you can give out over time. So like, what's kind of your plan there?
What's the
guys
tokenomics look like?
Tokenomics.
I've heard this FUD before, where it's like, it's a low market cap compared to how much it owns, but there's a lot of FDV to come into circulation. What do you usually respond when people ask that?
100%. So, Convex had that same sort of issue, if you will, early days, pharma dump token, and we saw how that played out. But, it's a fair gripe. I think the main thing about aggregators in general is like, it's all about BD. So, the tokens that you're going to accumulate, you really have to vet and make sure it's worth spending those emission towards. And then you also have to do these factors of how much you're getting back for the emissions you're paying. So, for example, I don't want to like get chewed out by reply guys here, but there's times where Convex is paying out way more in emissions than they're getting for Curve. And so, it's kind of minus EV at that point. As to where we didn't cement ourselves to specific tokenomics. We kind of, for example, we earmarked like 35% of the supply for down the road. So that is like, basically for platform rewards and other things that we maybe come up with. But anyway, I think it's all about BD. And so, when you're talking about spending emissions to strategically get governance power, I think it's more of an advantage to have plenty of room there instead of like a fully circulating supply and go from there type of mechanic.
But yeah, so a lot of the future emissions are not like, they're not going to be given to someone who's just going to dump them. They likely get used to acquire assets, which ends up backing them anyway. So it's not like you need to be like, oh, this is coming to circulation, screw me. It's like, if these come into circulation, it likely means that PLS got more assets for them. So it was kind of like a 1-for-1 trade. Is that what you're
exactly? 100%. And if you do some of the calculations on the emissions we've released so far versus TVL and the governance power we have, there's no way to value the governance, right? So, but again, if you do sort of calculations on emissions versus TVL, it's literally, we've released like pennies on for the dollar. So wow. It's been good. And I think on that note is like, the old style was always, here's the tokenomics, it's locked in stone, we'll never touch them. And I think kind of the new wave, and probably in my head at least, how most projects should look at it, is it should be a little flexible and dynamic. There market changes, sometimes a team. I mean, imagine if like someone that we were aggregating just like dipped, right? And then, if the emissions were locked in stone, you're kind of like paying for a rug protocol, right? So I think you have to be a little flexible.
That's true.
Agreed.
Okay. And if I own a PLS token, can I stake it for more PLS? Or like, how do I ensure I keep my like ownership of this thing?
Yeah, so right now we have like epoch lock staking. It's like once a month. So you can basically stake your PLS there. We basically raised the treasury and we were pushing some of the active treasury rewards to PLS stakers in lieu of bribes, right? Until they get spun up. So that was kind of like the goal. But once bribes come live, it'll probably be a whole different mechanic. And we're definitely flirting with some new ideas around vote lock Plutus.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that would be very bullish, honestly. I think you've seen a little bit of a trend where like up until the locking period, the price will, like PLS will go up, and then like as soon as the locking ends, like it feels like people are scared to hold it for a month, or they're selling to add to LP.
Right.
And I mean, so like with that, I think if you have the open staking or can lock whenever, like the vote locked Plutus, I think it'll be way more consistent. Like it'll like price won't go in cycles nearly as much. So looking forward 100%. To that, honestly.
Yeah, we're teasing some pretty novel designs there internally. So.
Nice.
Should be fun.
And how do you guys have like operating income? Like if you want to hire engineers and shit like that, are you using the treasury, or did you do like a fundraise to somewhere else, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we were kind of novel there too. We didn't want to deal with VCs or any sort of like official funding, quote unquote. So we went with a community round. We called it like a community seed round. We basically whitelisted people who were heavy in the DopeX ecosystem. I think we raised like $800K for that, and that was all treasury, all runway funds. And then during the actual TGE event, I think it came in around 4.5 million, but that was a lot of DPX and Jones tokens. So, that was, things were a little higher then, but, we run a tight ship. We have a super lean team. We're about 7, and, we kind of operate as like this cockroach mentality. Like, we're very, very, very conscious with our money, and to the point where we build products that have basically, it's plus EV for the user and it's plus EV hopefully for the token holder long term. But it also generates fees, and so we're inching towards a situation where we'll be self-sustaining maybe after year 1.
Nice.
So we don't really need any sort of funding or anything like that. Granted, we have ways if we had to.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
another question. I thought Jones was supposed to be the convex of Dopex, but now you're like the convex of Jones, which is supposed to be the convex of Dopex. Like, at what point does this become like the elephant sucking its own dick meme and just like continuous vote locking forever?
Yeah. So I think so they are actually basically like doing on-chain strategies. So they're like trying to be a a financial advisor for
Oh, okay, so it's
dumb down
not quite
options. So you just like
right.
right, you deposit money and they're going to manage it for you and take a management fee.
So they're more like the ribbon of Dopex. They're not really the convex
Exactly.
of Dopex. I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
misunderstood.
They're like
Jones.
on-chain hedge fund kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah, they just build your stack for you, and they have quants on the team, and really just make sure that like you're taking hedge positions. So fits right in with like kind of the Dopex piece for Plutus though.
Yeah.
Like,
And
but
oh, sorry, one more question.
No, you're good. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
like
Go ahead.
I've always wondered this. Like I found that on-chain options, like they were getting a lot of utility when all these vaults and whatnot were popular to generate yield. But then I think people realized that the yield from these vaults was like basically risk on, and it was kind of not as good of a deal as if you just did the work yourself. So people kind of like strayed away from them, and so there's not really a lot of volume or like product market fit for on-chain options. And I think a lot of this like ecosystem of Jones and Dopex or even Plutus relies on, at the end of the day, people have to want to buy options on chain on Arbitrum. Do you think like product market fit comes and lands in options on Arbitrum, or do you think it's already there, or what's your like general take on the real success for the on-chain options?
Yeah, great question. So, right now we're definitely seeing PMF for on-chain perps. And so
Yeah.
I think, that is in its infancy stages. And I think literally if you're talking about on-chain options, it's probably a twinkle in the eye type of scenario where it is very early for that. I think the play there is bootstrap and get all the infrastructure for liquidity to come in. Most of their products, I think Small Cap and I have talked on this, but most of their products are kind of catered towards larger individuals that are looking for hedges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if more of these large individuals come in and bring in liquidity, like the problem with on-chain options has always been liquidity. There's not enough to make the
Yes.
attractive pricing versus
Yeah, it's
like
like
a sex.
the user needs liquidity, but you won't get liquidity unless there's a user. It's like very chicken and egg
Right.
still. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think they're doing a good job at, gathering liquidity versus, and then putting out all these different products to make that happen. So, we've obviously bet heavy on them, but as a way for us to kind of hedge was that like rotation into other protocols and BDing and like figuring out where else we can expand so that Plutus isn't solely reliant on, one or two protocols.
I mean, I think that's a good place for like the Arbitrum airdrop to like incentivize liquidity. I could see it being TVL based with how many kind of options plays being like the majority of their traffic. At least like that's a guess. I want to say that it's the majority of their traffic, but I could see them incentivizing from that standpoint. And also like the other thing that like I think like when I look at maybe off in the horizon from like where I see like Web3 crypto and a lot of these DAOs going is like this cycle, a lot of DAOs got absolutely wrecked because they held it so much ETH in like their treasuries. They couldn't sell off because they had such large stacks. They didn't have liquidity. I think these DAOs will get a lot smarter, and I feel like they'll probably end up being a lot of the hedged positions, the liquidity on places like DopeX, GMX, and they'll be the ones that I think are some of the large users. So I think it'll kind of shift from individuals using it as liquidity comes to a lot of these DAOs, but that's just kind of my thought process on why I'd be super bullish on them. Like the on-chain hedging for them helps compared to using something that's like a centralized exchange. But I don't know if you kind of have similar thoughts, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why, these on-chain perps are kind of taking off, right? Is like everything we've seen from OFAC sanctions and like the tornado and like all those sagas, it's like, all right, why would I not live a life on chain and, off ramp when I need to? I mean, shoot, as like if you live in America or something like that, like you can't even get leverage.
Yeah.
Via most
Right.
centralized
You have to do it
exchanges.
on chain. Yeah.
Right. And then, that just kind of bodes well for the layer 2 as well, because,
Yeah.
you couldn't make these sort of trades on
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like perps are like the main thing that people actually want to use, are actually willing to pay fees for. And it's kind of just hilarious because it really proves this is
right.
all just like us gambling online as hard as degenerately as we can. But
100%.
like, do you think these perp projects jumped from Arbitrum? Like, we saw DYDX just be like, fuck it, and they kind of made their own like app chain. Um, if GLP gets, or what is it called, GMX gets big enough, are they not going to do the same thing?
I think they might kind of source multiple spots, so not like pick one. Now, if they start their own, that could be a very interesting dynamic. But I think maybe they're realizing that, like, their bread and butter has always been like loyalty to ETH. And so, some people won't even mess with layer twos, but layer two does give you that finality on ETH. So the security is there. But like, for example, I personally haven't used like, GMX on AVAX. And if they were to jump for some other layer one altogether, I think that would be kind of a miss because people like really respect the security aspect of Ethereum.
Yeah. I mean, one of the alpha chats I was in was talking about how there might be start to be a good deal on GLP on AVAX just because of you guys black holing all of it on Arbitrum.
Right.
So
Right.
something to keep an eye on. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's like, hey, how am I gonna get my GLP yield now that
Yeah.
all of it's being black holed?
I know.
With
But
all your
I mean, I
governance
think
control, you can just vote for them not to
yeah.
leave. Like,
Right.
no, sorry.
Right. Hey, not gonna happen. No, it's funny because I've been, you always check the discords and whatnot, but I've been seeing a lot of users, looking to migrate from AVAX over to Arbitrum for GMX in specific. So it's an interesting sort of phenomenon that's happening right now. Obviously, Arbitrum's the hotness, so kind of makes sense.
Well, you guys had a cap on your amounts to be locked. I think like you hit 1 million almost instantly. I feel like for the GLP vaults.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you guys plan on opening that up at all?
So we just
Or
opened
what's
it
the
up.
reason behind capping?
We opened it during this episode actually. So the new cap is 5 million. But that's mainly because we always like to put user funds and security number one, make sure things aren't wonky, and all that type of stuff. So it was mainly just that, make sure the environment is like fully ready. So that was kind of like the thought behind that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to give me the
That's
like
fair.
bullish future of the project? Like, let's forget, like, right now you're like a $5 million market cap. Like, how does this become like a $1 billion business?
Yeah. So, obviously, I think the first step is governance and bribes, right? So that's a good step in that direction. Another part that we're really working towards, which is kind of the whole point of the PLV GLP product, though, is using these PLS assets as DeFi Legos. Whether it be collateral, looping or something like that. So we've been talking to a ton of protocols, figuring out how they can get these. Something like PLV GLP, it strips out ESGMX and it's way easier for the devs to work with, and
Have
it's
you
auto
talked to
compounding.
Vesta? Like, to let people like mint dollars against it and then buy more or use with it?
Right. So that's kind of like what's basically, we want these PLS assets to become like a DeFi primitive, especially on Arbitrum. And then the longer term vision is like, a multi-chain governance black hole. So it started as a DopeX governance black hole, then it was layer 2 Arbitrum specific black hole. Maybe one day it's multi-chain. It's the go-to sort of protocol for bribing and governance and all that.
This is almost like Redacted or Lobis without the Ohm fork.
Right. So there was a ton of influence from Convex, Redacted, and all these type of projects. And I think it was like kind of, having the luxury of sitting back and looking at what worked, what didn't, and then reiterating on that.
Okay. And do you have ideas of what you're going to build on top of just aggregating governance? So aggregating governance is going good. Are you then going to build like new products on top of it? Like, how Redacted ended up building Hidden Hand, or they ended up building like Pyrex, or now whatever this Dinero thing is. Do you have similar plans or ideas?
So we're gonna outsource the actual bribing and stuff to the cartel. So we
nice.
recently announced
Handshake. Let's go. I didn't even know that. You're not even excited about that. You guys like collabing too. That's beautiful.
Yeah, we love to collab. Love the cartel. We're gonna be their official Arbitrum launch partner, so they're going to come over and facilitate all the bribes for us. But I think nailing the governance aspect is definitely part of like the vision, and so having those guys help will be a good thing.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I've seen too is just working with like I want to say like Aura is like having delegates and things like that set up, because if you're gonna aggregate like maybe 4, 10, 15 projects, it becomes hard to get some of the users to actually vote on like individual proposals for all of those like all of those different projects and keeping up with governance. So I guess what's kind of the plan there? Do you plan to have like teams and partners like work with each project and like help you guys vote for like what's best for Plutus, or how do you plan to actually aggregate some of that governance?
Yeah, so that is definitely like the next thing we're tackling, right? It's like, you don't want to overreach, right? And have like fucking 20 protocols and you're trying to manage all this governance. So again, it's all about BD and like making sure what you pick is the right one, and then being able to educate the Plutus users that do want to vote on their own, or educate yourself for delegation and all that type of services. So we, in talking to Redacted, they kind of do have this own service where there's like another layer where people can sort of pay for the things they want you to delegate towards. So it's like this like auto feature. But yeah, it's a tough ask to kind of like not only like accumulate and like gather all this governance, but then educate and make sure like things are actually being voted on when you have over 50% of the governance power. So that's kind of like the next stage and iteration that we're going to be heading towards.
Right. So there's actually a very core issue I remember with Lobby and Redacted when it came to this governance stuff. So with Convex, it was very easy for people to reason with, because they could say, I want to buy one Convex so I can control more than I would buying a curve and vote locking it. So protocols would buy Convex instead. But then with Lobby, that wasn't possible because they owned Convex and they owned Frax and they owned like other protocols BE tokens like StakeDAO, right? So if I was a protocol and I wanted leverage control over one of those things, I couldn't buy the token because it got me leverage control over a bunch of things, and I was forced to pay for governance control of something I didn't care about. How do you guys handle that? Because it kind of just like fucked with the ability to buy it or the product market fit. I almost wish that there was like separate governance tokens or separate leverage governance control tokens for each of these things instead of having one that was all of them. So why do you think one is better?
No, that's a good question. So on Hidden Hand, like I was talking about, there's these like new delegate to kind of steer votes on top of what's happening. So like to avoid someone having to buy the governance token. And I also think like once
it's like bribes for delegates, right?
So you're not supposed to buy Plutus to control the governance. You're only supposed to buy Plutus for the bribes, and then the bribing will take care of the optimization.
That's a great way to look. That's a great way to look at it. And I would say it gets to that point when there's a premium. So like Convex was, I believe, trading at a premium for a while.
Yeah.
And so like when it becomes a premium, then it makes way more sense to do these like delegation services. But if you're a user and you want access to bribes for multiple marketplaces, you would probably want to buy the token. Right. But if there's not that premium, then it could be a good time to get exposure, and then have. Not only do you get that exposure, but you kind of get a return on that initial investment through bribes on other protocols.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the Convex meme was the DAOs are buying it and the DAOs will never sell it. Like I remember there were graphs all over the place. Like Terra owns this much. Oh no, freaking Mochi Inu just got that much. Or like, and they were just like fighting over control of Convex to control the curve. But I think once you start buying more than just one governance thing, that meme becomes a bit harder because the DAOs have to care about all of them, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. What about direction? So, I mean, you just implemented the vaults for GLP. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about PLsSPA. So, what's going on with you guys in Sperax, and like what's the direction there?
Yeah, so we wanted to get this this PLV GLP product out. We, obviously love the GMX guys. We love everyone we work with. But we thought that was pretty important, and then go back to the governance side of things. So plsSPA will probably be the next thing that we release. They're doing great work, and it looks like they're going to have their gauges like fully sort of set up soon. And that'll be bribable behavior. So, that'll be great for PLS token holders that are kind of holding out for bribes. I think our first set of bribes will be with Sperax. And then after that, we're going to release PLS GMX.
Nice.
So that was always the plan when we sort of set out with PLV GLP. All these protocols are working great collaboration, and it's kind of like, hey, you help us, we'll help you. GMX guys are as smart as it comes, and so they don't want someone just black holing PLS GMX or GMX just out of nowhere. So it was like, hey, help us bootstrap more liquidity that's sticky with PLV GLP, and we'll help. We'll not only like, I don't want to speak for that, but not only quote unquote endorse, but help you guys out and game plan for what a good sort of model around PLS GMX.
Being a good partner, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, can you just tell me what SPA is? Because up until this call, I thought SPA was a sub-RFE ohm fork, and now I'm realizing it is a different project, different SPA.
Yeah. So it's a algo stable.
Okay.
Yeah. On chain algo stable kind of.
Algo stable like UST style or like Frax style?
More like Frax style.
Oh,
They're
okay.
fully collateralized right now, like 100%. So when all that stuff with UST was going down, they kind of closed up shop, if you will, to make sure everything was 100% backed, and then
nice. Okay, they even have it in big red letters at the top of their website.
Yeah,
we are 100% collateralized. It will only become algo like a 1% per year. That's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things UST collapse was like, oh shit, the whole industry is like, okay, I can't even touch algo stables. And then we had the tornado incident with USDC, and now everyone's like, okay, we need more algo stables. So you have Curve USD, all these things popping up, and it's like, okay, they caught a huge bid right after that, So it was it's funny how it ebbs and flows so quick.
We actually
I think they had some of the Terra guys on their team, or they used to do research. So I think that's probably why they have that in bold red letters. I think there is some overlap, but honestly, I followed this one since launch, and their team is it's pretty gross. They have a ton of talent. They're super nice. I'm looking forward to this one.
Here, I can bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty talented group of people.
I guess just pictures of them.
I don't think
but they all
price
look
action
very
is
smart.
fully. Yeah, I think this one's going to do a pretty big turnaround when gauges come, but we'll see. And I actually saw you mentioned Jump, but I saw Jump was buying in at one point. I don't know if they held their position, but there were some big people acquiring positions in SPA, expecting the gauges to work. Do you know what it'll look like? I think my understanding is if you pair with USDS, you earn SPA and then it incentivizes projects to partner with them. And be a liquidity pair.
Exactly. I think it's similar to that whole sort of ecosystem that's being spun up on Balancer right now, but it's basically paired emissions. So it would be, say, Plutus paired with USDS, and then you can incentivize it from both sides. And then gauge voting would be on how much SPA each pool gets. So that's my understanding, at least.
Nice.
Yeah. Is that your plan for liquidity? Do you think you'll go PLS USDS with?
We've talked to them about it. We've talked to them about it. It's nothing official yet, but it's a good way to kind of subsidize liquidity without as many emissions. So it's kind of a win-win,
Yeah. I guess kind of on that same conversation, is your plan to kind of stick with sushi? I know you mentioned multi-chain world. So I know they're building a multi-chain DEX, or they just launched it. But what about some of your other pairs? When you look at PLS, DPX, and DPX, I always think that would be perfect for something like Balancer, where you can bribe and then do emissions paid for in Aura or Balancer, or just have some of those emissions be offloaded once you acquire big positions. like to get liquidity between those pairs. So do you guys have any plans for that, or like I guess what's your go forward with some of the stuff that isn't your PLS and ETH or PLS USDS pairs?
Yeah, so we keep a good pulse on everything, and we try and stay ear to the ground, basically. But we're always open. We're flexible with liquidity, and we'll move to whatever we need to make it plus EV for all holders. We started off with Sushi just because it's kind of the most user friendly. As far as like the exit pools go, a lot of people are like, oh, why not jump on Curve, all this type of stuff. Well,
Yeah.
First off, that was all happening when like the ST ETH pegs and all that type of stuff was going down, and like it was like, anyway, all these liquid stake derivatives aren't gonna hold peg. It's like a tail risk that you basically put off until forever, and then it eventually breaks and yada yada yada, FUD storm, yada, like we've all seen it play out. Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah. Then you RFM. So, we kind of went this route of like, okay, we're not going to launch a fucking curve pool, and then all of a sudden we pick the wrong A parameter, and then, we have to relaunch because one, we don't have the governance, or two, it's not working out and it broke.
Yeah.
Right. And so we went just the Sushi route for now, incentivized emissions. It's working out great. We've been hovering around 1. But again, I think people need to reframe sort of their mindset with that. It's not a peg pool. It's literally an exit pool for a liquid stake derivative. Otherwise, you'd be locking it up for 4 years. So if you lose a 5% haircut on the exit, that's like a godsend versus a 4-year lockup. So, I kind of think the whole industry needs to reframe the mindset around these quote unquote peg pools for these like exotic assets. It doesn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I was going to ask you though, is there a solidly fork on Arbitrum?
I don't think there is yet.
Oh, wow. Well, for all the blockchain clubs, there you go. For the blockchain clubs, there's a good Ponzi for you to launch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I just tweeted about Hermes this morning.
Oh, okay. They're coming to Arbitrum.
Are they coming over?
Okay. Wow. There you go.
They will be. Like, I mean, they're probably going to be another month and a half, if I had to guess. Yeah. It was like late Q3, early Q4 was them launching using like Uni V3 liquidity. So they'll be there, but like I don't know if somebody will beat them to the punch.
Nice.
Right. I was bullish on that just because they're going to get both Metis Marathon and probably the RB airdrop. So if they can pull both those off, like that's a pretty sweet middle ground of like capitalizing on both. But
100%. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of protocols kind of try and rush over for that potential grant.
Yeah. Exactly.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you. So, if I'm coming to Arbitrum, I'm not on Arbitrum yet, and I want to make money. What do you recommend buying?
Oh boy.
Well, not recommend. I don't want to use that word. That's a scary word. But we put a big screen up front saying expect losses. But like, let's say you had a $10,000 portfolio to allocate to Arbitrum Ecosystem. How do you spread that?
Yeah. So, just being very political here. Obviously, I think you go with product market fit if you're looking for like a safe play. And that clearly is like something like GMX, right? It's printing fees. It's probably not going to like giga moon until we get like a mania bull phase. But nonetheless, you're not going to probably nuke 90% tomorrow. Then, obviously like a little more risky pre-product market fit, I'd say is, something like DopeX. And obviously, I can already hear people like eye rolling, be like, oh, that's all the guys fucking talks about. But, that's kind of where I'm placed. So of course I'm going to talk about it.
And do you buy DopeX or do you buy our DopeX? Because I never really understood either.
Oh boy, dude, I'm going to get roasted. So I personally am a fee maxi. Like, I believe in the whole next DeFi like sort of era is all about fees and like, actual users and generating, revenue. So I look for tokens that are going to be giving that back to the holders. So I'm personally just positioned in DPX right now. And then I, probably stake that in PLS DPX and, like it's kind of like the curve convex curve relationship there. And so, cause like, even though I love DopeX, I'm not about to lock it up for 4 years. But then RDPX, it's this play around potential stable coin coming up. There's some crazy mechanics
happening
there.
I mean, they were trying to make it deflationary.
Can you just vote for them to launch it or something now that you control the thing?
Right? Oh my god. Yeah, so it's going to be like a burn mechanism for this DPX USD that'll get used in the platform type of deal. But personally, I would like to see it in the wild before I allocate capital in this
Okay.
type of an environment.
Do you have any alpha on like when you think that will happen, or just massive shrug?
I think probably before year end to put it like
Nice.
super safe.
Yeah. Hey, if before year end is super safe, that's not bad at all. Like we're already in
Yeah.
September.
Right. Exactly.
Is just kind of curious. Do you have any plans to work with JPEG? I feel like you've been a JPEG maxi. And, like,
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like down the NFT path. So
Yeah,
like,
I
is there any
mean-
plan for Plutus to integrate with what they're doing?
If they ever come to Arbitrum, we'd be open to discussion. I think NFTFi, like DeFi crossover, is definitely a big sort of narrative that could be upcoming. It's already getting sort of a bid right now, but no one's really been able to design it correctly. So, and if it works out, I mean, we're open to collaborations with basically anyone. And again, if you use our products, like I said, like we want to be the DeFi primitive, and so if you use our products, we'll help you out as well.
Yeah.
So anyone out
Okay.
there listening or has any ideas, like hit us up.
So
You have
once you
Sammy in the chat. He's a
once you
big
accumulate-
NFT-fi guy.
Yeah, he actually gave some advice or something like that. If you want to peep the chat.
Okay, I'll have to
He was
check it out.
he was shouting you out, DCF,
Yeah.
saying
Oh, sick.
representing value capture instead of liquid wrappers. So he was
Right.
just agreeing with you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, if you get enough JPEG to control, please vote for them to give loans to Anitas instead of I don't know what that is, but
Oh, it's so true.
let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Cool. I think
Anything else
yeah.
you wanted to cover? Yeah. Everybody go deposit in their GLP vault. They expanded it just for the show. There's another 4 million GLP open now.
Exactly. No, man, I appreciate you guys taking the time. Feel free to come on Trending Down whenever you have availability. I know these podcasts are always like, let's fit it into the schedule when we can type of deal.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
if you guys are more NFT focused, hit me up. Like me, Big D, and Grug could come talk about Anita or something like that. That'd be fun.
Legendary. Yeah, that sounds great.
I love
Cool.
it.
Thanks,
DCFs. This might be our quickest episode because he's hungry. What happens when you really
Hey, we got
breakfast?
5 minutes left. I've been like staring at these eggs. I'm like, bro, these guys made me leave the restaurant. But that was great. I think it's
my God.
a good rundown on Arbitrum Ecosystem. There was a lot there, so I would recommend like giving it another listen. I think we covered a bunch of projects from stable coins to options. I guess like when you gave your answer though on the 10K thing, it was very like safe. If I was like willing to go to 0 and I wanted the like, okay, this is 100x or nothing bets, how would you allocate it?
Right. Oh man. Okay, so I would obviously probably buy like a couple Arbitrum NFTs. I don't know any off the top of my head, but if there
Okay.
were
Blueberries. The
There
Blueberry
you go,
gang from
Blueberries.
GMX. Yeah.
All
Okay,
right, shout out
okay.
GMX gang. I mean, I would look for protocols that have good value to asset ratio. I mean, I don't like. You can read between the lines here, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
You can say Plutus. Don't worry. Like
Yeah.
there might be an answer. It's like, yo, honestly, like we're probably just best value per dollar right now, and there's not a lot of low cap stuff on Arbitrum yet.
Right. Low cap stuff that like actually has working products and TVL and an actual like momentum. That's hard to find, right?
Yeah.
So I would allocate a little there for sure, but mainly just keep the ear to the ground. Again, I think when or if they drop the token, it's just going to juice yields across the board.
Mhm.
So you probably can't go wrong. Everything's going to catch a heavy bid.
Yeah.
Like a rising tide type of deal. But obviously, if you're looking to go max to gen, go the low caps because those are probably going to do multiples over something like GMX and BPX.
Okay. I still
There-
feel like I didn't get your true answer, but
I know, dude.
we'll get it later.
I can
We'll get it later.
100%.
I love it.
We'll shake them out in the
exactly.
Discord after this, and then we'll
Honestly,
tweet
send
it out for you.
Send the cartel after me. They'll get it out of me for sure.
I love it. And if
Yeah.
I'm
It-
like,
one no. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go.
okay, I was gonna say like
I was gonna
if I do want to keep my ear to the ground, like where is that? Is there like specific influencers in Arbitrum you follow, or like you just join their Discord, or what's the best place?
I mean, shit. Basically, all I tweet about these days is Arbitrum.
Yeah, it's-
so
Okay.
happy to
Just follow you.
Happy to
I
keep
love
folks
it.
up to date.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At
I'll
Ethersole,
let you
turn the
know.
notice on. All will go well.
It's-
Hit me up.
How about just one quick one that popped in my head? Is there anything that's like launching coming down the pipe that you're excited for? like Liquid Finance just launched, like Y2K is coming. But is there anything else that you guys are like, or that you personally are pretty excited that's like going to be launching soon?
Yeah, so it's always tough. Like in this market, in this environment, like obviously if you can find something that launches and it's quality, that's like the best returns, right? And so I think personally, I'm not buying any launches, but I'm watching all of them and seeing how they build, because I always feel like, they launch, maybe they catch a little bid and then they dump, and then it's like that's the time you probably want to jump in when they first start to get to building. So there's a
Yeah.
couple new platforms. I don't know if they're public yet, but they're basically like going to be selling a way to like sell yield before you have it. Not Pyrex, so Sammy, don't come at me. But there's some cool stuff that's launching that like have jumped in the DMs of Plutus to be like, hey, what's good? Let's collaborate type of deal. So definitely looking out for them.
Nice.
All right. So hanging out in the Discord's the real
Perfect.
plus EV move.
And check out the
100%.
Diamond Pepe's NFT. Those guys have been like
Oh yeah, shit. Shout
awesome.
out to
Yeah, I
them.
love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, those are gonna duel. I think they're gonna like have a dueling feature. So like, I
Amazing.
don't know if that's the first sort of like on-chain dueling
Yeah.
NFT type deal, but that's gonna be cool for sure.
But if you're looking for like people that are dedicated to making memes, like that is the
100%.
community. Like they will be in Anita Cord making memes of Anitas in Diamond Pepe form, and it's amazing. It like really reminds
Dude,
me
they're
of like
mean.
Barachain early. Like they're dedicated to making people happy.
Oh yeah, their
Love
meme
that.
game is
It's
unmatched.
unmatched.
New
Yeah.
New Toro is next level. So shout out to him.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Uh,
Really good call. Appreciate the time, and we'll see everyone on the next episode. I'll end the stream here. Peace.
Peace.